We're going to take a break from some world news right now and just focus on some news within the United States because there's something I really want to talk about. Eighth grade students at a middle school in Las Vegas raped another student who is also eighth grade. All of them were boys. Here is the ringleader. And I really want to talk about the details of this case because they're not really being reported in mainstream news, and they should be. Because as I started to look into this case, I noticed that when I was searching online, a lot of similar cases were popping up at a lot of different schools. Parents need to be made aware of what is going on at these schools, especially nowadays. I don't know what the hell is happening, but I feel like a lot of the sexual violence is getting a lot worse. And for a lot younger people by the year, it's just younger and younger. So this occurred with students at the Alexander Dawson School at Rainbow Mountain in Las Vegas. I just like saying it. Rainbow Mountain. This is a private school and it's very expensive. Literally, it's $39,000 a year to put students through this. And this is kindergarten through eighth grade. This isn't even high school. This isn't even college. This is college tuition. This is a well-to-do school with well-to-do people who are expected to go above and beyond, especially if this is what parents are paying each year, right? Now, I know people in the comments are going to have a lot of questions on what kind of parents would pay that much money on a kindergartner or an eighth grader to put them in a school. And I really want to stay away from any types of ADHD that you have going on. I really want to focus on the actual details of this case because they are alarming and we don't need to be changing the subject here because people do live very different lives than you or me and we're not going to understand it. But what we do need to do is make sure that people are held accountable for rape, period. So what happened is they went to a school trip in the spring of last year to Costa Rica. Again, we're not going to understand the way that these people live their lives. I can't imagine sending my eighth grader, I don't have an eighth grader, but imagine sending an eighth grader to Costa Rica with a school. I couldn't even imagine going to Costa Rica with a school myself. But still, they took a school trip to Costa Rica. Before this, 4 boys were causing bullying so bad at this school that many parents had taken their children out of the school because the bullying was so bad. But still, these kids were allowed to go on this school trip to Costa Rica with the other kids. One kid who had been bullied relentlessly and had his parents already report this to the school was then put into a room with 2 of the bullies. Yeah. So he was sharing a room and sleeping next to the bullies who had been hitting him, calling him names, humiliating him for months. First, they stripped the kid naked, right? And they threw his clothing over the balcony. The kid went and hid in the bathroom and locked the door. And so the bullies left. Eventually, the kid who was the victim went and changed clothes and went outside and got his clothes from the ground that had been thrown over the balcony. But the next day, that's when the assault occurred. And so the 2 boys that were staying in the room with him opened up the door and let the 2 other boys in. So it was 4 boys now. They held the kid down, ripped off his pants, and filmed him with a flute. He was screaming, saying, "Get off of me." They reached over his body, turned him over, kept doing it. This was an egregious sexual attack that went over the course of several minutes, and it depicts it violently. The boys are heard laughing, they're punching him, and the victim's yelling, and they're saying sexual assault. Like, they know what they're doing. They're like, "Looks like sexual," and the other person says assault. They say that somewhere else in this article, and they're heard laughing throughout the video. They then save the video on their phone. They start showing it to other students. They have it on Snapchat. In the video, they're urging the victim to fight back, and the ringleader says, "If you do fight back, we'll cut off your penis." Yeah, this kid had to have been terrified for his life. When he was finally able to free himself from this rape, the boys continued to laugh on camera and said, "Ew." Could you imagine? Now, here's the problem. They're not getting in trouble for this. This might look like they're in court, but they're only in court for child. Yeah, because they had child porn. They're all children, you know, but they had technically child porn on their devices. That's the only reason why they're getting in trouble. Yeah, the court said that there's no way that they can try them for a sexual assault because it didn't actually happen within the United States. It happened in another country. And if Costa Rica wants to make those charges, they can. But so far, Costa Rica hasn't. Because why would they? Like, these are foreigners that came for vacation. Do they really want that kind of smoke? Not really. So this is Griffith. This was the ringleader. He was actually the class president and like captain of the golf club or something. Golf club in 8th grade. So a family member posted $20,000 bail for him, and he's not allowed to have contact with other minors other than their own sibling, which, is anyone watching out for that sibling? I don't know. It seems like the parents aren't really that involved. He had to surrender his passport and stay out of trouble. Of course, the video is sealed because it's child porn and can't be shown to anyone. The only 2 of the 4 kids that were tried for the child porn was this kid and the other kid. Because the other 2 boys out of the 4, the other 2 boys, they didn't have the actual footage on their phone. So they couldn't be tried for child, right? But they were involved in a sexual assault. But they can't be tried for sexual assault in the United States. So they haven't had their faces out there. They haven't been charged with anything. They're free as a bird. And they're trying to say that these kids were not sexual predators. There's no evidence of Griffith being a sexual predator, being the one who was raping him with a flute. I'm sorry. I think that if I raped someone with a flute, I'd be a sexual predator, right? That anybody would. If you're raping anybody with anything, you're a sexual predator. So, like, how can they say that he's not? And the people defending him are saying he certainly comes from a supportive family, attended a private school, maintained an excellent GPA, was elected class president, is an award-winning elite golfer. Who fucking cares? Are you kidding me? Could you imagine that your child was by another student after you had already reported that these kids were doing all of these things? He was raped, right? And then they just talk about how awesome the kid is? Oh my God, he's so smart though. He is really great at golfing. Yeah, he has a great family. Yeah, but he rapes kids. He rapes kids. What's more disturbing to me is that when I started to look this up, like I mentioned before, I started to find cases all over the United States from kindergarten up through high school. This isn't even starting to talk about colleges, which we know there are a lot of cases of this in college, but this is pre-college. Here they're talking about Chicago public schools. Here they're saying Markham Morris High School. There's APE. Then there's a prep school rape case, so that's also high school. That is not in Chicago. These are all different schools. This one's talking about high schools and middle schools failing victims of sexual assault. So they're just like talking about many instances in this article. Chicago Tribune report finds 500 cases of sexual abuse and rape in Chicago public schools. I mean, it just goes on and on. According to the U.S. Department of Education's Office for Civil Rights, almost 15,000 incidents happened of sexual violence from kindergarten through high school in 1 year in the United States, 2017 to 2018. And you know, it's just gone up since then. Still, I believe it's only logical to think that this is highly underreported. 15,000 incidents in just the United States alone? I mean, it could be at a high school near you, or a middle school near you, or an elementary school near you. This is the president of the school, Roxanne Stansbury, and when the parents had been complaining about this, she didn't do anything. Yeah, it was only when they got raped that Roxanne Stansbury was like, oh, maybe boys won't be boys. Maybe that's not, because they were saying boys will be boys. That was their whole thing, right? Now when a boy gets raped, she's like, "Oh, that's weird," but she's still the principal of the school. Yep, still the principal. She looks like the type that would not do anything. I mean, they all have they have that look. She's got it. I'm sorry, I think you should lose your job if it is your responsibility to protect kids and something like this happens when you've already been warned. Let me know what you think in the comments. I think this is absolutely insane, and it scares me to even have kids, to put them out there, not just with adults in the crazy world, but with other kids. And where are they learning this stuff? Where did they come up with this stuff? Anyways, don't forget to subscribe. We talk about news all the time up on this channel, so let me know what you think again in the comments, and I will be seeing you guys in the next video. Bye.